Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving deep into one of the most pivotal and misunderstood battles of the American Revolution, the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now, here's a fun fact to start us off. The most intense fighting didn't actually happen on Bunker Hill. Confused? Don't worry, we'll clear it all up. This battle, fought on June 17, 1775, was a brutal, bloody clash that proved the American colonists were a force to be reckoned with. It was more than just a fight for a piece of high ground. It was a psychological turning point that shaped the entire war. So, let's set the stage. It's April 1775. The shot heard round the world has just been fired at Lexington, and the British Army, under General Thomas Gage, finds itself bottled up in Boston, surrounded by a newly formed ragtag army of Colonial militia. We're talking thousands of farmers, blacksmiths, and merchants who had dropped everything to fight for their liberty. The city of Boston is essentially under siege. The British controlled the city itself, but the colonists held the surrounding mainland. The situation was a stalemate, a tense standoff. Both sides knew this couldn't last. Something had to give. The key to breaking the siege lay in the hills surrounding Boston. To the north, across the Charles River, were the Charlestown Peninsula Hills, Bunker Hill, and the smaller Breed's Hill. To the south was Dorchester Heights. Whoever controlled these high grounds could place cannons and bombard the other side into submission. General Gage and his commanders, including Major General William Howe, knew this. They drafted a plan to seize these strategic hills, starting with Dorchester Heights on June 18th. But the colonists had spies. The Massachusetts Committee of Safety got wind of the British plan. They knew they had to act first. Their decision to fortify the hills on the Charlestown Peninsula before the British could make their move. On the night of June 16th, a force of about 1,200 colonial troops under the command of Colonel William Prescott was given a rather vague order. March to the Charlestown Peninsula and fortify Bunker Hill. And here's where our story takes its first interesting turn. As Colonel Prescott and his men marched under the cover of darkness, a debate broke out. Bunker Hill was taller and more defensible, but Breed's Hill was closer to Boston. Fortifying Breed's Hill would be a much more direct, in-your-face provocation to the British. It was a riskier move, but it would allow their cannons, if they had any good ones, to directly threaten the British fleet in the harbor. Against the original orders, the decision was made to dig in on Breed's Hill. Imagine the scene. 1,000 men, working silently through the night with shovels and pickaxes. They were constructing a redoubt, small and close-set fort, about 160 feet long and 80 feet wide, with earthen walls 6 feet high. They worked with a desperate urgency, knowing that when the sun came up, they would be completely exposed. As dawn broke on June 17th, the crew of the HMS Lively, a British warship in the harbor, was the first to spot the new, shocking structure on Breed's Hill. They immediately opened fire, and the battle for Bunker Hill, or rather, Breed's Hill, had begun. The British command in Boston was stunned and furious. This audacious move by the rabble in arms could not be ignored. General Gage immediately convened a council of war. General Henry Clinton argued for a flanking maneuver, landing troops behind the colonists to cut off their retreat. It was a sound, tactical plan. But General Howe, who would lead the assault, dismissed it. He believed the American militia were cowards who would run at the first sign of disciplined, red-coated regulars. He opted for a direct, frontal assault on the hill. It was a decision driven by arrogance, a belief in British invincibility, and it would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. By early afternoon, over 2,200 British troops, the elite of the army, were being rowed across the Charles River to the base of the peninsula. They formed up in perfect parade ground lines. It was a terrifying spectacle designed to intimidate the amateur soldiers waiting for them on the hill. The colonists, their numbers now swelled to around 1,500, watched them come. Their commanders, like Colonel Prescott and General Israel Putnam, walked among the men, trying to keep their spirits up. They knew they were low on ammunition. This led to what is perhaps the most famous command in American military history. While often attributed solely to Prescott, the sentiment was shared by the officers. Do not fire until you see the whites of their eyes. This wasn't about bravado. It was about survival. Every single shot had to count. The British began their advance, a wall of red coats, bayonets gleaming. Marching steadily up the grassy slope of Breed's Hill, they were marching into the teeth of the colonial defenses. The colonists held their fire, a nerve-wracking silence broken only by the sound of British drums and the occasional cannonball from the ships. The British got closer. 100 yards, 75 yards, 50 yards. Then, the order was given. A massive, coordinated volley of musket fire erupted from the redoubt. The front ranks of the British assault were annihilated. The disciplined redcoats, shocked and decimated, broke and retreated back down the hill. The colonists had held. They had just repelled the finest army in the world. A stunned general how quickly reformed his lines. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Surely, it was a fluke. He ordered a second assault. Once again, the British regulars marched up the hill, this time stepping over the bodies of their fallen comrades. And once again, the colonists waited, holding their fire until the last possible moment. The result was the same. A devastating volley, followed by chaos and a panicked British retreat. The slope of Breed's Hill was now littered with red coats. The British losses were staggering. By now, the colonists were running desperately low on gunpowder. Some men had only 1 or 2 shots left. They resorted to stuffing whatever they could find down their musket barrels. General Howe, now personally leading his troops and with his own uniform torn by musket balls, was determined to take the hill. He ordered a third and final assault. This time, he concentrated his forces on the center of the redoubt and brought in reinforcements. The British soldiers, ordered to drop their heavy packs, surged forward with bayonets fixed. The colonists met them with one last, ragged volley. But then, the ammunition ran out. The fight devolved into brutal, hand-to-hand combat. The British poured over the walls of the redoubt. The colonists, without bayonets, for their muskets, fought back with the butts of their rifles, with rocks, with their bare hands. It was savage and desperate. Colonel Prescott, realizing the position was lost, ordered a retreat. The colonists fell back, fighting their way off the peninsula, while a small, heroic group of soldiers, including the prominent Patriot leader Dr. Joseph Warren, who had volunteered as a private, fought a rearguard action to cover their escape. Sadly, Warren was killed in these final moments of the battle, a major blow to the Patriot cause. So, who actually won? Tactically, the British did. They achieved their objective. They took the hill. But at what cost? The Battle of Bunker Hill was one of the bloodiest encounters of the entire war. The British suffered over 1,000 casualties, including nearly 100 officers killed or wounded. That's almost half of their attacking force. The American casualties were much lighter, around 450. One British officer grimly noted, a few more such victories would have shortly put an end to British dominion in America. The psychological impact was immense. The British arrogance was shattered. They learned that the American colonists were not a cowardly mob. They were a determined and deadly enemy who would stand and fight. For the Americans, it was a massive morale booster. They had lost the ground, but they had proven to themselves and to the world that they could go toe-to-toe with the mighty British Army and inflict devastating losses. The battle transformed a local rebellion into a full-scale war. It galvanized colonial support and convinced many who were on the fence that independence was not just a dream, but an achievable goal. The Battle of Bunker Hill stands as a powerful testament to courage and sacrifice. It showed that the fight for liberty would not be easy or clean, but that the will of a determined people could stand against overwhelming odds. It set a precedent for the entire war. The British could win battles. They could take cities. But conquering the hearts and minds of the American people would be an entirely different matter. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this deep dive into the Battle of Bunker Hill interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more history content. Let me know in the comments what other battles or events you'd like to see covered. See you next time.